Berlin's streets came alive with chants, flags and emotion. Thousands gathered beneath the grey autumn sky, their voices echoing through the avenues of the German capital. The air carried both defiance and exhaustion, a reflection of a world weary of war, but unwilling to stop speaking about it. On this evening, Berlin became a canvas of solidarity. From Alexanderplatz to the Brandenburg Gate, waves of red, green, white and black rippled through the city. Protesters marched under the Palestinian flag, chanting for freedom, chanting for peace, chanting for an end to the suffering in Gaza. Their words rose and fell in rhythm. Ceasefire now, free Palestine. Police counted about 5,000 people, though the real measure of the march was not in numbers, but in its intensity. Families walked hand in hand. Students, workers, elderly survivors of different causes all came together under one message, that the ceasefire now taking hold between Hamas and Israel must not be temporary. It must become the first step towards something lasting. Many held banners in German, Arabic and English. Some bore the names of relatives trapped in Gaza. Others displayed photographs of homes reduced to rubble. The signs read, "Stop the occupation, justice for Gaza, no more silence." Each phrase represented a fragment of pain and resilience. The demonstration took place just as a fragile truce went into effect, the first pause after months of relentless violence. The ceasefire, brokered with US backing and facilitated by Egyptian and Qatari mediators, offered hope. Yet among the marchers there was little celebration. They feared the silence of the guns might be temporary, a brief intermission before the next catastrophe. Berlin police were out in large numbers, lining the routes, maintaining a perimeter around the procession. Officers on foot and in vans watched calmly as the march progressed. The city has seen tension at previous rallies, instances where anti-Semitic slogans or unregistered demonstrations forced crackdowns. This time, however, the organisers took precautions, working closely with police to ensure a peaceful event. Marshals in reflective vests moved among the crowd, guiding and calming as the march stretched on. The atmosphere remained charged but controlled. The sounds of drums and chants echoed off the stone buildings. At times, the crowd would fall silent, a deliberate pause to remember the tens of thousands killed in Gaza, and to honour families still searching through ruins for loved ones. Some lit candles, others knelt on the pavement in prayer. Above the crowd, Palestinian flags fluttered against the Berlin skyline. To many, it wasn't only a political statement, it was a personal one. Generations of Palestinians living in Germany joined the rally, along with Germans who said their conscience compelled them to stand up. One woman, holding a banner painted with the words, "Peace is not silence," said quietly, "We can't look away anymore." As dusk deepened, the city's monuments stood illuminated. The Brandenburg Gate glowing gold in the distance, the television tower piercing the sky. Around them, thousands chanted for Gaza, but also for humanity. Their slogans carried more than anger. They carried exhaustion, grief, and the faint glimmer of determination.
Ich wiederhole es noch einmal. Auch wenn Sie palästinensisch sind. Hier hat einzig und allein nur die palästinensische Flagge.
The protest came hours after the guns had gone quiet in Gaza. After weeks of bombardment and bloodshed, both sides, Hamas and Israel, agreed to halt fire. The deal, backed by Washington, required mutual withdrawal from forward positions, a monitored release of detainees, and unrestricted humanitarian access for aid convoys. But in Berlin, skepticism hung heavy. "We've seen this before," said one activist into a megaphone. "Ceasefires come and go. Peace never stays." Speakers addressed the crowd from a flatbed truck transformed into a makeshift stage. Microphones crackled as human rights groups, student unions and community leaders took turns. A young woman introduced herself as the daughter of Gazan refugees and said, "We are here because silence is complicity." Her words drew applause that rolled down the street like a wave. Another student added, "We cannot celebrate a ceasefire while the rubble still smokes." These were not rehearsed lines, but spontaneous expressions of shared anguish. Each voice added a layer to the soundscape of protest, anger and empathy woven together. The chants shifted: freedom for Palestine, peace for all. Germany's relationship to the conflict is complex, shaped by history and guilt, by politics and principle. The government in Berlin remains one of Israel's strongest allies in Europe, emphasizing Israel's right to defend itself. But the streets tell another story, one of generational change. Among younger Germans and migrant communities, there is growing unease with what they see as collective punishment of civilians. For police, managing these demonstrations means balancing two constitutional pillars: freedom of expression and protection against hate speech. German law forbids any denial or distortion of the Holocaust, a boundary that protest organizers are careful not to cross. Yet the line between criticism of policy and perceived anti-Semitism remains politically charged. Tonight's march tested that balance but stayed within it. Observers said the protest was one of the calmest in months. 2 minor detentions occurred when individuals broke from the agreed route, but the crowd remained peaceful. Organizers praised the turnout, calling it a moral awakening. Across Europe, similar marches took place in Paris, London, and Stockholm, a continent divided between solidarity and fear. Many citizens sympathize deeply with Gaza's plight, while others worry that imported tensions could fuel anti-Semitism or violence at home. Berlin's demonstration encapsulated that contradiction, a city determined to stand for peace, yet haunted by its past. Analysts say Germany's leaders face a dilemma that runs deeper than policy. Berlin continues to supply defense technology to Israel while urging restraint. The foreign ministry has called for greater humanitarian access, but stopped short of endorsing sanctions or arms embargoes. Opposition parties, however, are pushing harder, arguing that Germany's credibility on human rights is at stake. One commentator put it succinctly: Germany's conscience is caught between history and the headlines.
Und Gewaltbereitschaft zu vermitteln. Drittens,
As the evening wore on, volunteers distributed water bottles and food among the protesters. Parents lifted children onto their shoulders to see the stage. Songs in Arabic and German echoed through the night, some mournful, others defiant. In those moments, the political seemed personal again. Then came a moment of silence. Thousands stood still, their flags lowered, candles flickering. The city seemed to hold its breath. In that pause, one could sense the weight of all that had been lost, not only in Gaza, but in the erosion of hope across generations. When the chants resumed, they were quieter, steadier, more determined. Stop the war, they said, end the occupation. As night deepened, police vehicles formed a perimeter around the remaining crowd. Loudspeakers advised demonstrators to begin dispersing. Yet even as people drifted away, groups lingered in conversation, unwilling to let the energy fade. Clean-up crews moved in, the banners were folded, the candles left to burn out on the asphalt. By 10 o'clock, Berlin's streets were mostly quiet again. The sounds of protest gave way to the hum of late-night traffic and distant trains. But traces of the rally remained: chalk messages on the pavement, leaflets fluttering in the wind, and that lingering feeling that something had shifted, if only slightly. Friday's demonstration wasn't just about Gaza. It was also about Germany itself, about how a nation still haunted by its past grapples with new moral responsibilities. The ceasefire, fragile as it is, became a mirror reflecting Europe's divided conscience. For many Germans, it raised a larger question: what does solidarity look like in a time of global injustice? In interviews afterward, protesters said they hoped their message would reach policymakers as much as the public. One marcher, a teacher from Neukölln, said, "We need compassion to be louder than politics." Another, a German Jew attending the rally, said he came to remind others that supporting Palestinian rights doesn't mean denying Israel's right to exist. His presence drew applause. That diversity, Muslims, Christians, Jews, secular activists, marching together under one cause, was perhaps the most powerful image of the night. It suggested that amid polarization, shared humanity still survives. The crowd's energy slowly dissipated, but their words stayed behind. Ceasefire is not peace, it's a beginning. Berlin, that city of memory and movement, once divided by walls and ideology, now stands as a stage for another kind of struggle, not of nations, but of conscience. Tonight's march was a reminder that while wars may pause with signatures, justice requires persistence.
Ich wiederhole es noch einmal. Auch wenn sie palästinensisch sind. Hier hat einzig und allein nur die palästinensische Flagge Gewaltbereitschaft zu vermitteln. Drittens. Untersagt.